20 minutes into the match in Paris, Manchester United were already trailing Paris Saint-Germain. Then Mason Mount went down. He tried to continue, but within moments the coaching staff withdrew him from the pitch. Michael Carrick confirmed afterward that Mount had been kicked and that the substitution was a precaution rather than a reaction to a serious injury. Carrick also said, "We've been a little bit fortunate with injuries so far this preseason," a statement that frames how thin the current squad depth actually is. Mount has been one of the standout performers of preseason, operating in a deeper midfield role. Had the injury been serious, United would have entered the new Premier League season without their best-performing preseason midfielder and without a like-for-like replacement. Before going further into everything unfolding at Old Trafford, it is worth noting that this channel, Final Whiz, breaks down every transfer story, injury update, and tactical decision from Carrick with detail and accuracy rather than speculation dressed up as fact. If you want that kind of coverage delivered consistently, subscribing, liking this video, and leaving a comment with your own read on this squad helps this channel keep producing it. Now, here's everything currently unfolding around the club. The first situation is Marcus Rashford. This is a view from a journalist connected to the club, not a confirmed decision from United. The claim is that Rashford remaining at the club and playing this season is currently the most likely outcome, though the situation remains subject to change. United would reportedly accept an offer of £25 million for Rashford, but people close to the player believe the club does not actually want to sell him. If a move happens, the suggestion is that it would come late in the transfer window. Rashford is reported to want Champions League football, which rules out interest from clubs in Turkey and Saudi Arabia. A club that has not decided whether to sell a player usually means that player retains value in the building, whether through squad depth, resale value, or injury cover. A player who has drawn a hard line on Champions League football has made his own priorities clear. This is a standoff rather than a transfer in progress. Carrick has spoken directly about his relationship with Rashford, referencing the match in which Rashford made his debut. Carrick confirmed that the full squad, including Rashford, Kobbie Mainoo, and Lisandro Martinez, would reunite in Dublin this week as the group comes back together. Rashford is not training alone, and he is not being frozen out of first-team activity. Late window deals typically stem from necessity rather than planning, either from a selling club balancing its books before deadline day or a buying club circling back to secondary targets after missing a primary one. Nothing is moved yet on Rashford, and he remains involved with the group. The most accurate description of his situation right now is unresolved rather than imminent. The next point concerns how United have approached this transfer window overall. Again, this reflects analysis and opinion, not an official statement from the club. The suggestion is that United have been cautious this summer, while direct rivals have spent more aggressively. There is uncertainty over whether 3 additional signings will arrive, but an expectation of more spending before the window closes, with the stated view being that judgment should wait until the window shuts. That approach is reasonable in theory, but it depends entirely on the finished squad actually arriving as promised. If deadline day passes without the suggested reinforcements, patience among supporters typically shifts quickly toward frustration. On the question of a backup for Bruno Fernandes in the number 10 role, there are currently no plans to sign a specific replacement this window. United had interest in Morgan Rogers, who could have played from the left and potentially developed into a long-term option, but the club reportedly stepped away once his valuation reached £117 million. Instead, the belief is that the existing squad already provides sufficient cover. Matheus Cunha is considered strong in that position. Shea Lacey has started there twice in preseason, and Amad Diallo has also played centrally, either as a false 9 or in the number 10 role. The stated logic is that this internal flexibility should allow Fernandes to be rested more often, described as something the club genuinely needs. If that internal cover holds up, it represents squad building without a transfer fee. The risk is that trust proves misplaced once competitive matches begin. 2 further signings are expected before deadline day, one at left back and one in central midfield. The midfield addition may not be a traditional defensive number 6. Instead, the belief is that Carrick wants midfielders comfortable in possession, who can pass under pressure. Specialist defensive midfielders are available but come with a hefty price tag, while the alternative being floated is a more technical, ball-playing midfielder priced between £30 and £50 million. This points to a clear tactical philosophy built built around controlling matches through possession rather than defensive specialism, one whose durability against physical Premier League opposition remains untested. Returning to the Mount situation, Carrick's exact words were that Mount got kicked and that the club wanted to be careful and look after him, reinforced by his comment about the squad having been fortunate with injuries so far this season. United's midfield is currently carrying significant weight on very few shoulders. Fernandes is central to almost everything going forward. Mount has been arguably the most improved player of pre-season in a deeper role, and Mainoo is still working his way back into full first-team involvement. Tyler Fletcher received minutes in the same match against PSG, and his performance did not suggest readiness for a heavier role should further injuries occur. This is precisely why the earlier point about a technical midfield signing in the £30 to £50 million range carries weight. It is beginning to look like a necessity rather than a luxury. One of the clearest positive stories of preseason has been André Santos. Santos arrived at United from Chelsea in a deal worth an initial £48 million, with a further £2 million possible through add-ons. He was the first signing of the Carrick era, a 22-year-old Brazilian midfielder who missed this summer's World Cup with his national team. Santos is featured in all 4 of United's preseason matches, against Lakeshus, Rosenborg, Atletico Madrid, and PSG. In the PSG match, Santos recorded more defensive contributions than any other player on the pitch in the first half, totaling 5, and made only 2 inaccurate passes in the entire opening period before halftime. He also produced a sliding tackle inside the opening 20 minutes while United were already a goal down. Wes Brown has publicly stated that Santos has done enough to start United's opening Premier League match against Hull City, reasoning that Santos sits a little bit deeper and starts the play, which suits the way Carrick wants his team to play. Brown also noted that Carrick will have real decisions to make once Fernandes and Mainoo are fully available again, positioning Santos as a player the rest of the midfield is built around rather than a temporary stand-in. Youri Tielemans has also drawn praise from within the squad. Amad Diallo said that what supporters have seen so far represents only around 5% of what Tielemans has shown on the training ground. He added that Fernandes has been praising him constantly since returning to the squad and that the players are happy to have him. Teammate praise for a new signing is common, but Fernandes's own standards make his consistent private praise notable as a signal of genuine internal belief, alongside Tielemans' widely referenced debut performance against PSG. Bryan Mbeumo also spoke this week, stating that he can't wait to play Champions League football for the first time in his career and that he's happy about the opportunity. It's a brief quote, but it reflects genuine motivation from an attacking player in strong pre-season form as the club returns to Europe's top competition. One confirmed transfer this week involves Radek Vitek, who has left United permanently for Middlesbrough. The deal is worth £7 million, rising to £14 million with add-ons. United secured a 35% sell-on clause, matching rights, and a buyback clause on the goalkeeper. The sell-on clause means United receive a share of any future profit if Middlesbrough sell him on. Matching rights mean United can match any future offer from another club before he can move elsewhere. The buyback clause allows United to re-sign him later at a pre-agreed price. This is a structured departure that protects long-term value while giving a young goalkeeper regular football he was unlikely to receive at Old Trafford. Finally, on Igor Thiago, United, along with Chelsea and Tottenham, have registered interest in the Brentford striker through intermediaries, and Bayern Munich are also monitoring the 25-year-old. Brentford have no intention of entertaining offers for Thiago this summer. He's considered central to their project, scored 22 goals last season, and is described as fully committed to staying at the club. 3 Premier League clubs and a major European club circling a player with that scoring record confirms his quality, but Brentford's public refusal to sell confirms how difficult this deal would be to complete. This is registered interest, not a live negotiation. There is real progress developing through Santos, genuine belief building through Tielemans, and renewed motivation tied to the Champions League return through players like Mbeumo. At the same time, the club has admitted to being fortunate with injuries. The midfield was exposed the moment Mount needed to be withdrawn as a precaution. Rashford's situation remains unresolved, and the club's cautious spending approach still awaits its final test before deadline day. Vitek has departed under a carefully structured deal, and Igor Thiago remains a name to watch rather than a deal to expect. If you want every update on these situations as they develop, subscribe to Final Whiz, turn on notifications, and leave a comment with which of these stories you're watching most closely. I'll see you in the next one.